Welcome everybody. Um, Changing out threads. Um, Been working on big order of stow and go bags or project bags for cross stitchers. So switching out threads real quick. We're gonna keep working on the beach bum bag from last week. Um, I will show the one we finished the exterior last week. I apologize for that. Got a little bit of a summer cold, something going on. So I do have my water with me down here tonight, so shouldn't be an issue. But last week, the beach bum bag, which is this bag, the style of bag, it's a really good size bag with a front pocket. This is one of my earlier renditions, so it doesn't have the zipper pocket on the inside, but it does have the slip pocket, the large slip pocket that has two compartments on the inside. And the newer and the pattern contains how to do the optional zipper pocket, like this one. This is a fully vinyl one, and that is an option. And now this has a magnetic snap instead of the cam snaps, and it does have the optional zipper that you can add. And we are going to add that today, and also has the pockets. Right. So today we are going to definitely do our interior zipper, and we are going to do our slip pocket. And if we have time, we will put together the lining and put the bag together, just depending on where we are on time. So previously we did the exterior and put it completely together last week, or been a couple weeks, but here's what we put together the last time. Of course, we have our front pocket. Now this is completely woven. Everything is woven. So I have added extra stabilizers that I don't do in the pattern. I've added fleece just to add a little more stability to it. Well, if y'all would like, I can do a magnet snap. Now, the type of magnetic snap I use are the riveted magnetic snaps that you use doing a cam snap press. And I get that from cam snaps, but I will show you what I use. You can just use regular old cam snaps like I've used on most of the other bags. But the magnetic snaps, they're actually rivets, and they have a die that you can put them in with. Um, but so here's the exterior that we did last time. It has our handles all attached. So if you want to see what the inside looks like, you can see where we've attached our handles and everything. But so we're going to move on, and we are going to do our slip pocket first because it's the easier of the two pockets. It's just big. That's the big thing. The big difference with magnetic snaps over front that are not rivets are you have to make holes, and I can go over that at another time, the different type, and I can go over what the different ones are. There are magnetic snaps that use dies that are rivets. There are ones that you actually have to poke a hole in the um, not one to think, the fabric or vinyl or whatever you're doing. And now that one for this bag, you would have to do before you put the lining in, unless you're using a Yael. I hope I pronounced it right. Yael. Um, but for that, it's a little different because if you're using a decorative magnetic snap, um, like on the outside, it gets done a little differently than just a regular magnetic snap. So it just depends on how you're doing it. So I can go over that on how you use for the different snaps. So I hope that helps a little bit, Melody. All right. So first things first, we have our two slip pock pieces. I can do that, and we can install them on different things that I'll use in the future, so I can explain what they're used for. That's not an issue. I can just prep a few wallets and show you the difference between them. Um, I can also do the rivet snaps. Like I said, of this bag when we do the one for the Mario, and I can show that. I can maybe plan on doing that next week during the live, and we can go over the different live options. Different options of magnetic snaps. There's also turn locks too, which this is not where I would use a turn lock. Excuse me. But so we have our two pieces for our slip pocket. And of course I'm holding it upside down. A little invincibility star for Mario. Yet again, I hold that one upside down. They're exact same size. And what we're going to do is actually going to pin or clip them together. And we're going to use our 1/2 inch seam allowance. We're going to sew them together both at top and bottom. And then we're going to turn them right side out like a tube. So this is going to make a big tube, and we're going to turn them right side out and then press them. So let me go ahead and move the camera over to the machine, and I will get started. Yes, my husband decided to bring home a lovely cold home from work. So I've been getting over that the last few days, but starting to feel a lot better. But I apologize for any scratchy voice or coughing in that case. So we have our thing. We are going to sew at a 1/2 inch seam allowance. This is our slip pocket, and we are sewing with a 1/2 inch seam allowance both top and bottom. And I apologize for not being able to do the live last week like planned. Um, I think with all the storms we've had come through in the last couple weeks, I had a doozy of a migraine, and I apologize for that. Been dealing with it for about 30 years, but sometimes can't help it. So, so we've sewed the first seam. This is our top seam. And just to make sure, since both my fabrics are directional, I made sure that they're both right side up. Tell me you haven't done that before. Now, if you accidentally did do that and sewed one of them upside down, the good thing is since one of them's the lining, if it's for you, you can keep it that way and just the one that's upside down, put on the inside. And unless you're making it for somebody else, nobody's going to see it. So, as you can tell, I have done that before. I've done that when I've accidentally put a zipper pocket upside down where I wanted it to be able to see it right side up and then seen it upside down after I finished. So, but since it was inside a pocket and it was just for me anyways, it was not a big deal. So, just to show, I'm going to trim my threads. All right. So we have our what I call the slip pocket tube. So we have both our pieces sewn together with a 1/2 inch seam allowance. And it's just a big giant tube. So what we're going to do, we are going to flip that right side out. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to take this over to my handy dandy iron and press that flat. And then we are going to top stitch across the top. I'll talk to y'all while I am pressing this flat. We should finish most of the bag today. I don't know that we will finish all of it today, but we should get the pockets of the lining done. And like I said, we are doing a internal zipper pocket, and we are doing the slip pocket. And while I'm over here at my iron, I'm going to go ahead and do my markings for where I will stitch down my slip pocket so that I will not have to get up again afterwards. So I am pressing it down all the way across so it's nice and flush. And I do that both top and bottom because we are not going to top stitch at the bottom because that will be done when you attach it to your bag. And that's the biggest thing to do there is that we're going to sew down all three sides except for the top, which is why we top stitch the top first, since that will be your opening. But we are just pressing down the pocket flat, the seams nice and flat. And then we will make our marks. And those are 2 inches in from each side. And I will show you those in just a second. I'm going to go ahead and make them. And then also at the center mark of our pocket to divide it into two sides. And the way I mark, especially on a dark fabric like these, I use chalk. And so I will, and I use the Dritz, or so should I say Clover chalk marking pen. I love that pen. I use it all the time. It's kind of like has a like a little roller ball thing, which I will bring over and show. All right, so just all right. Oh, sorry, I turned my. Well, it would have just been me at the ironing board, so it really wouldn't been showing anything. I apologize for that. All right, so what I did is I went and pressed it, so you can see I've pressed the seam open. And I went ahead and because my camera doesn't go over to my cutting table unless I'm only at my cutting table. And so like when we do the magnetic snaps, I probably will be just at the cutting table where I'm showing you all the different types of snaps. And I don't have multiple cameras, so it's hard to move everything. But just to show you, so this is my completed slip pocket. I'm getting ready to take it and top stitch it across the top. And I have marked 2 inches in from each side. And what this, and I'll explain that as I go. What this is doing is this is what's going to be in your seam or your side seam of the bag. So this is kind of like an unusable space. So we are closing that. And that's why we have this. And I'll explain it as I sew it. And then if you look in the center, I have one going right dead center. Okay. And this is what I was saying I use for marking and said it's made by Clover and it's a chalk marking pen. It's great. It's just like you do that and you can see where I just marked on my finger and then it comes off. It's great. Love chalk. Easier to get rid of than most marking pens. All right, so what we're going to do right now is we're going to top stitch. So I'm going to take you back to the machine, but I apologize, Melody. But hopefully I could explain what I was doing even when I wasn't in camera. Yeah, they're my favorite. And I have yellows sometimes for marking on like white, even though nothing comes off as easily as the white chalk. So, but I do use the heat marking pens as well on like whites. I use like black and red and stuff like that as well. So we have our top stitch. So now at this point, I'm going to turn the camera back just so I can show y'all what I'm doing. All right. So this is one of my lining panels, nice and big. Now, if you see, I have a mark all the way across yet again with chalk again. This is 3/4 up from the 2-inch square that you cut out when you cut out the lining pieces. And both lining pieces have this 2-inch square cut out. This is so you have your boxed corners. That's what's going to make your box corners. And since this is a 2-inch square, that's why I drew a 2-inch line, because that's what's going to be on that side part. And it gets so deep that it's just not really a usable pocket. 2 inches, or it's actually more like 1.5 inches by 11 inches deep. It's not that much of a usable pocket. So that's why I close it up. That's fine, Melody. That's not a big deal. But this is 3/4 up because I use a 1/2 inch seam allowance in this bag. This is 3/4 up. What we're going to do, we're going to line up the bottom of the slip pocket even with this mark, and I'll go ahead and pin it and show you what I'm talking about. And then we will take, and I will show you how we are going to sew this to the bag. So we are pinning each side to the side of the lining piece. Now, I did use waterproof canvas for the main body of the bag, the lining of the bag, should I say. But I used woven for my pocket. You can use either. Just know that I did put SF 101 on the lining pocket just to add more stability, prevents it from stretching. It could be good for. So I did have one of my testers leave it open, but I personally don't ever find. So here, I'll show you. So here's an example. Here's one. The thing is, when you box that corner, here is the pocket. When I say it's not very wide, that is the width of it. It is not very big at all. So it's just easier to go ahead and close it up. I mean, I have, like you said, it might be good for a knitting needle or a crochet hook, but it might also get lost in there. So that's why I don't. So I am pinning this, and then I will show you how I have it pinned before I sew it down. And I'm going to show you how we will be sewing this down. Apologize, I'm not the fastest pinner, but I do prefer pins over clips when I have woven materials. If I'm using vinyl, I do not. Now, you can clip it down at the bottom. I've just pinned on the sides, but just to show you where I have it, and I will be making sure as we go across that it is even with that line. So you can see there's that. I'm pulling it up so you can see that line that it's even with. So we have it, and what I will do is I will take and I will go from one side, go all the way down using an eighth of an inch seam allowance. We're going to go an eighth of an inch all the way down, all the way across, and all the way back up. Then I'm going to, and you'll be able to watch me do this as we're at the machine as well. We're going to go across using the top stitching we've already done, and we're going to stitch the 2 inches over, and I go straight down using that mark on that side right here, that 2 inches over, all the way down to the bottom. Then I will disconnect and I will go from the side and go over and down. So over and down again. And then starting from the top, I will go from the top down to the bottom in the center. And then my 2 pockets will be completed. About to say 3 pockets. There's no 3 pockets, there's two. So I'll take it to the machine and sew it. All right. Like I said, not a hard bag, it's a big bag. So you see next to my head, it's pretty good size. But this carries about everything. I took my 8-year-old to the library and she was able to fit about 25 books in there comfortably. It's heavy, but it holds it. So just heads up. You like to carry a lot with you. That's why I call it a good beach bag because you can get fit 4 or 5 beach towels, sunscreen, about anything you could think in there. So like I said, we're using an eighth of an inch seam allowance. Now I'm not basting it because technically you could base the sides, but you got to attach the bottom anyway. Hi, Christine. Jump bags are fun. Now, why do I need another one of these? I think this makes number 7 for me of these. I won't need another one of these for a while, but everybody in the house has one plus more. But I probably will sell a couple. So I have sewed down the first side, and we are sewing the bottom. And like I said, I have that line all the way across. And no, I did not put pins. That sounds like fun. What color are you dyeing your hair? I've never actually dyed my hair. I've highlighted it, but I've never dyed it. So I've had lots of friends who've had all kinds of funky colored hair. So I'm always interested. But like I said, I'm just holding it in place and I am sewing with it. And this is basically top stitching your bottom as well as closing in the bottom of your pocket. So that seam is nice and flat now. I've had blonde highlights mainly because I grew up blonde and didn't quite deal with the fact that I wasn't still blonde as I got older. So for a while I had blonde highlights, but that was about the most. Purple sounds cool. I've thought about doing like blue highlights before, but I can't seem to uh get the gumption to do it. So not yet. All right, so this is we're going up our second side. So now it is connected on three sides, just to show. Here's the one giant pocket right now. So now we're going to close up those two little 2-inch pieces. So for the left side, I just leave my needle in and rotate it. And we are going to, and I sewed my 2 inches in. We're going to rotate it. And just so y'all can see what I'm doing. Said big. We are going to just go straight down the line that we marked. Now, I've had a couple of people ask me if I am going to do a update for the Gamers Night Out for the Switch 2. I am in the works of it. Mainly partially because I actually have a Switch 2, and mine's definitely not big enough. I'm hoping to make a carry-all case for like all the extra controllers and stuff like that too, possibly. But, so I have one side where I attach the 2-inch part. So you can see here's the opening of the pocket right here. But this part completely adhered. So this is just said when you box those corners, this is what's in the side or the side of the bag. And it's really hard to use basically like an 1.5 inch pocket, wide pocket that's 11 inches deep. It just makes it a little hard. So what we're going to do is we're going to do, and of course my thread comes unthreaded from the machine because I'm moving that bag all the way around in place. Okay. Let's thread our machine back. All right. So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to sew in from that side using the top stitch that we sewed on the top. And we're just going to sew that top part closed. And we go all the way down to the bottom. I'll go ahead and trim my threads while I'm holding it. So that is connected as well. So we have two side pocket or non-pockets that are now closed. So what's left is to sew the line down the center. That will give you two slip pockets. I like fun fabrics, and I'm a huge Mario fan, so that doesn't hurt. Wait till you see the zipper I have to go with this fabric. It is a invincibility star. So goes with it. All right. So we're going to start. Whenever I do pockets, I usually start from top to bottom. I find it stays a little bit better. But that's my own personal. You also can go from bottom to top. But I'm just following the line that I drew. And with chalk was awesome. You take a damp cloth and it all comes off, no issue. We won't talk about how much fun fabric I have. So I'm just kind of brushing off excess. So just to show, I'll move y'all back for a minute just so we can show this pocket. We won't talk about, I've got 7 containers of zipper pulls alone, so we won't talk about that. Um, or 7 large containers and 1 small container of zipper pulls. So, and I have some that are not sorted. I have some very plain ones and I have a lot of funky ones. So we have our center pocket. So just if you want to see how it's sewn, as you see, is closing up that. There's our center pocket, and there's the other side closed up. And you see all those frays. So you have your slip pocket. So now what we're going to do is we are going to do our zipper pocket. And now I've already slightly prepped it. And this is our other lining piece. And so what you do is you take 3/4 from the top of your panel pocket. And just to show you, whenever you do a interior pocket like this and you want to be able to see your fabric right side up, make sure the top of your fabric is at the bottom. Because then when it's folded up in the pocket, this is what you'll see. So this is 3/4 from the top of the pocket panel. And this is a 1/2 inch rectangle. If you can see, with about 3/4 on either side. So if I show you, this is like one of my things of zipper pulls, and I have like 7 of these. So that makes you feel a little bit better. Yes, now I do have them labeled. Otherwise, I would go nuts. So I did for a while, but a little bit of OCD took over, and I had to have them labeled. All right, so we have that. It is centered in the middle of our panel. Now, it's kind of hard to see as big as it is, but trust me, this is centered with the center. Now you can see I did mark the center here, and I use that. And what we're going to do, and this is 4 inches down from the top of the lining, centered, the top here. So what we're going to do is we're going to actually take and sew all the way around this rectangle. And then I will show you the next step. Now there are a couple, just heads up, there are a couple ways to do an interior zipper pocket. You can use 2 panel pieces. I use one if I'm not flipping it through that pocket. I just use one less piece. And I've had people ask me before, this has SF101 on the back. If you notice, I've pieced SF101. It doesn't have to be a solid piece. You're not seeing it. You can overlap. Just make sure you overlap it slightly. It will be a little thicker where those overlap, but it's a pocket. This is not something anybody's going to see. It's not anything anybody's going to feel, and you really can't feel the difference. So we will go ahead and move over. Excuse me. Apologize for the waving thing. Now, biggest thing, make sure you back stitch. But I'm just following this all the way across. Okay, and I'll rotate. Make sure you leave your needle in, mainly so that you pivot and you're not going to have like the thread um, skip or anything like that. So we're just skipping again. Not skipping, turning it again, and we're going down our other long part. Now, I know I said I'm using the invincibility star. I do actually have other Mario pulls. I have Bowser. I have one that says Mario. I have one that is an actually enamel Mario or enamel one up mushroom. The invincibility star matched the fabric so better, so that's what I did this time. Okay. And make sure you backstitch. And just to show, here's a rectangle, and just since I'm using the nice pretty rainbow variegated, you can see where I've done my rectangle on the back. Okay. So what we're gonna do now, I'm just gonna show you now. You can use a ruler, you can use, I don't usually use anything to mark anymore because I've done this so many times. But to feel better, you can use a ruler and you can draw a line in the center of what the rectangle you just did. And I'll use a nice bright red just so you can see. And this will not be seen, so you can use a Sharpie. You could use, don't use anything that's going to run too much, but I got just a little thin Sharpie that I'm using as much to show you. So that you see what we have here. I find with newer people that drawing this line does help them to cut right. Now, if you see, I've got a straight line in the center and then a little triangle. Well, what we do is that we will fold our thing in half. And I said, I don't normally draw the line anymore. I just kind of eyeball it. But when you're still relatively new with doing zippers, this is sometimes easier. So I cut in the center and I will follow, if in your case you have the line, and you go all the way till you're about a half inch from the end of your rectangle. And then you're going to cut to the corners from that stopping point, making that little triangle. So when you cut, you should be like that. So you have that nice little triangle. And what this is going to make it, but you need to make sure that you don't cut into your seam all the way to the edge, but not into your seams. Otherwise, your seam will come out. But no, it's been crazy here this week because we're getting ready for school. I have my 17-year-old getting ready to 12th grade. So she has 2 more years of high school left because she's at an early college. So she still has 12th and 13th grade to finish. And then I have my 8-year-old getting ready to start 3rd grade. So now that we have our opening, what we're going to do, you will take it and pull your pocket all the way through the opening. And I'm going to take it over to my iron and press that open. Just make things lay a little flatter. Make sure I don't press my laptop. Now, Since my lining material is actually waterproof canvas, you need to make sure that you're not pressing the waterproof canvas because it can melt. Some don't. Some press easily as woven. But since I do have woven as the actual pocket material, I can press on that side and press it flat there. So that's what I'm doing. Now, what you can do is if you are using waterproof canvas for the pocket as well as the lining, what you can do is instead you can get double-sided tape and tape it open. It's the best way I can say to do it. If you don't feel comfortable, or you can I finger press it a lot. So instead of using your heat, like I use a seam roller or I use my fingernails actually a lot to flatten the seam. So right now I am just pressing that opening open. So apologize I can't take y'all everywhere with me, but I will show you what I've done in the meantime. I will also grab some double-sided tape while I do that because that will be helpful. Sometimes I use it and sometimes I don't, but that will be useful in adding your zipper. Ow. And then I can't see things apparently. All right, so there's my lovely eighth of an inch wide double-sided tape. So just so you can see, that top part doesn't want to stay down quite as easily, but you can see how I have it pressed. So it mostly keeps its shape. And if you look on the back, it does look upside down, but it will be right side up when we pull up the pocket. So we have this. So we're going to take our zipper. Now, I don't always use the double-sided tape, but for those of you who are still new about putting in zippers, it will help you tremendously. So I'm going to take my double-sided tape and I'm going to go ahead and switch over to my sewing machine. And so you can watch me put the double-sided tape on just to show you. Once I find the end of the double-sided tape. Okay. So what I do is I will put it at the very edge of the zipper tape. So it'll be out of my seam allowance. This zipper tape is from Wizardry Stitchery, which is geekyhardware.com. It is my favorite. I have no issues with it gumming up my machine or anything like that. So I highly suggest theirs. Weft and Warp have a really good double-sided tape as well, or double stick tape, however you want to say it, for bags. I used Tammy's double-sided tape from Weft and Warp as well. I've used a couple others, but those are the two I use most often. So just to show you, there's one side, and I'm going to put it on both sides of the zipper tape, and apparently hitting everything. But we are watching it get stuck all the way down. Okay. Okay. And set that to the side. 'Cause I won't need that again tonight. This is a inset zipper enclosure. So we have our zipper tape. And what I'm going to do, this is my clue of how to do this the best for me is I take off one side of the the double stick tape. I don't take off two. And the reason I do that is that I do one side first, get it stuck in place, then I do my other side so that it's not, the fabric is not sticking to it. So I will get it centered in my hole. And I will show you before I stitch it down what it looks like. And it will just be stuck on with double-sided tape. Okay. And we are getting it stuck on. Like I said, it's that first side that's actually the harder because it's the shorter side. So we have that. And so now that that side's stuck down with double-sided tape, you can pin it as well. But what I'm going to do, I make sure my pull, try to see, make sure my pull is back out at the bottom. And I will lift up the bottom and take off the other side of double-sided tape and then make it lay flat again. And I will show you before I sew it what it looks like. So just to show you, I press it down really good. That's what it looks like. I will turn the camera just to show you. This it's a little harder when this bag is huge. So this is what it looks like, and I'm going to start up here in the left hand corner and stitch all the way around using an eighth of an inch seam allowance and all the way back around, and then we'll finish up the pocket, and that's where we'll stop for tonight. And then next week we will finish up the bag. So lovely scraggly pieces of thread or fabric. So right now, this looks like a very plain lining, at least as far as that, except for that little pop of color and the pop of star. Thank you, Melody. But we'll move back to the sewing machine. Mm. This is definitely a lot more fun fabric to sew right now. My other things I've been working on for Christmas. So it's a little different. We are going to sew that down with an 8 1 inch seam allowance. Now we'll move my zipper down out of the way so that it's nice and flush, so that it's nice and straight. So a lot of times when you have the zipper pull, it will make it get a nice wave in it. So one way to do that is to move the zipper pull out of your way as you're sewing. Now you can do these type of pockets and use two panel pieces and then use that as a turning point for your bag. This bag is so huge. I don't think you want to try to turn it through this pocket. It's bad enough through the opening in the bottom of the bag. Can you imagine trying to turn it through the pocket? That would be a little crazy. But you probably could alter it to turn it through it. You could in the hole at the bottom. So you could completely close in the lining instead. So it's some people will alter it to do that. Oh, and Melody, I need to go and find that video for the bowl cozies. I haven't been able to find it yet. I think it's just gotten buried in all the lives. So if it helps, it's back from November of last year. So if that will help you narrow it down before I get to it in the Facebook group. If not, it's coming close to that season again that I will do another tutorial on the YouTube channel as well so that you'll be able to get to it easily there. So just lots of fabric. So we are going across the bottom. Okay, and we'll do our last corner. I said you could do a blending. Hi, Annette. Welcome. We are putting in our interior pocket. Okay, so have our sewing. Now we still have the pocket to put together, but just to show you, it is sewn. And if you want to see what it looks like on the back side, nice and neatly sewn together. So now that we have that, we are going to take our panel piece and fold it up and match our seams. Now, but one thing I will actually is I will trim down zipper tape so that's an inside seam. So that just trims down the excess zipper tape. I keep it about a quarter inch past my seam. And I will grab my little handy dandy lighter to make sure that my zipper tape. That's good. I apologize for between being sick and having migraine, I kind of lost track. I saw it, but then didn't get back to it, and I apologize for that. But I will do another live for it. So we are just flaming the end so it doesn't fray. Do that to the other side. And that way that this not going to be in our seam when we bring our side of our pocket up. And the reason my lighter is going out is because I have a fan going. So of course it blows it out. This is the beach bag. This is the second tutorial in the beach bag. So this is earlier we did the slip pocket for the interior earlier tonight. So you can always go back and rewatch that. And today, right now, we are doing the zipper pocket. So this is our lining for our zipper pocket. So we are just going to fold it up. And as you can see, now our zipper tape is not going to be in our seam allowance. So I am going to pin this. Plus, I think sometimes Facebook hides when people post in my group. So I don't always see it right away. And I apologize for that. Okay. And I will pin across the top because we will use the 1/2 inch seam allowance to close it all in. So I will show you what it looks like when it's all pinned. But yes, this is the beach bag, Annette. It is a very large tote bag. Let's put it that way. And this is number 7 of these I've done. I totally agree. They only will show you things if you pay for it. So what we're going to do is we are going to go up from the bottom on the left side of the pocket and then go across the top and then back down using a 1/2 inch seam allowance. And this will close up our pocket. Cool. So last week we put together the exterior, or not last week, the last live, which was 3 weeks ago. I put together the exterior. And so you will have a tutorial step by step to follow the tutorial. And this week we are just putting together the lining slip pocket and the interior zipper pocket. And apparently I keep taking little random threads everywhere. And then next week we will put together the lining and the full body of the lining together and put it inside the exterior and add our snap to the exterior of the bag. And then we'll be done with this bag and we will move on. May do on how I did a magnetic snap rivet for this bag, how I plan on doing either that or I think I might just do a cam snap. I don't know because this is woven. I may just do a cam snap. But so what we're going to do, we're going to take this over to the machine and stitch all the way around. Thank you for purchasing the pattern, Annette. So like I said, this is sewn at a 1/2 inch seam allowance all the way around. And we will turn the bag around, or not the bag, the lining around. And I leave my needle down in so I can just pivot. And this is, like I said, 1/2 inch seam allowance all the way across. And this completely closes in your pocket. That's the way to learn how to do all the different types of things, is to do lots of different types. That's the way I have found the best way to do it. If you want a pretty simple pattern, one of the best things of mine is actually the stow and go. I have you can do a vinyl one, a clear vinyl one, or just a regular woven one, which I'm making a bunch of right now. But it's great for project bags, and so we sew on the other side using a half-inch seam allowance. Now, at this time, a lot of times I will actually trim my side seams down to about quarter of an inch. You're not required to. I just do it just to reduce bulk. So just heads up. This is not a requirement. That's just something I do. Of course, I don't trim down on the top because it's not as wide. Heads up. Switch headphones so y'all can hear me a little better. We have one headphone in. So said I trim this seam allowance. And next week, providing nothing happens, I will definitely be doing my live next week. I only planned on missing 1 week because I went for the week, which is across the state, and then ended up with a migraine. So we have finished our pocket. Ooh, sorry. Apologize for that. Bit too flip around on you. So here is our interior zipper pocket. We open it, and since I said that we turn, I'm trying right now. A little stressed out right now because of a couple orders, but other than that, I'm doing good. But I should be good. They're not calling for any massive storms, so the we had the directional fabric upside down when you pull it up, it is right side up. So I like that little pop of fun, especially when you have a very plain interior. So it just looks like a little bit of a rainbow. And then when we open it, we have that nice pop of Mario that matches the outside of the bag. And just to show you, there's the hand. It is completely closed in. There's our interior zipper pocket. And here is our interior slip pocket. And just to show you again, on the back side, we did enclose in, and this is where our boxed corners will be. There's our center dividing. You could leave that open instead of having two pockets. You could have one giant pocket, but then it gets to be so huge and it just kind of flops open. That's the reason I do the sewing in the center. But there is our interior slip pocket. And next week we will put that together and we will connect them and add our snap. And that's my plan for next week. So are there any questions before I finish up for today? But here is the exterior. I finished the last live. This is the exterior, and this is cotton webbing. The only thing with cotton webbing is that you need to make sure you fray check before you put it down in the seams because it will fray. It will fray like crazy and come apart. Make sure you put fray check all over at the bottom inside the seams. But so we have our exterior with our vinyl. And so just so you can see what the inside looks like. Thank you, Annette. This is a fun bag to me, and I did this one completely out of woven because I wanted something a little more lightweight comparatively. Most of mine have been made out of wax canvas, waterproof canvas, cotton canvas, or vinyl. This is completely woven, except for the lining is still waterproof canvas, but all the pockets are completely woven, and so it'll be a little bit lighter weight. Not like I need more of these bags, but it is a good sized bag for carrying everything. The one I have out of cotton canvas, because it is so heavy duty, I actually, you like I said earlier at the beginning, use that for library books, carrying it back and forth, and I can fit a whole lot of library books. So it's not as bad. So like I said, pretty good sized bag. But we will continue next week. And I hope to see everybody here next week and maybe some new ones. And if you have any new friends who want to watch me sew, next week we'll be putting together the two pieces of lining. And then we will put that together and I will do the snaps and I will explain the different types of snaps I've used in the bags. And depending, I may use a magnetic snap or a magnetic rivet snap. I'll decide next week. But I will see y'all next week. And if there's any patterns y'all want me to concentrate on in the near future, feel free to let me know and I can explore that. But sometime soon in the future, I will do a whole live just on magnetic snaps or other closures such as turn locks and things like that, how you install those. Um, but I will talk to y'all next Wednesday. Have a good night.